From the dawn of time, our ancestors have left us with the tales. Stories which speak of things that they have seen and lived alongside by, feared, respected, and even looked to some of them as godlike. Modern man refers to such things as spirits, extraterrestrials, demons, cryptids, creatures, and entities of all kinds, and so much more. These things and tales are now referred by most as myths and legends. But there are those of us that know what our ancestors spoke of was the truth. Those of us that have become obsessed in searching for answers and finding out the truth are here. We need the truth. This search brings us into the realm of the unexplained and unknown. It brings us on the trail. The search for living legends. Please join JR and I on the quest, and welcome to the search.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to episode 3, season 2 of On the Trail in Search of Living Legends. We saved tonight. Actually, we had someone lined up. They backed out. Didn't back out. They had some stuff they had to take care of. But a gentleman that I respect highly was planning on bringing on at some point anyway. I messaged him, asked him to come on, and he took up the offer, Mr. Abe Sias. Abe, how you doing, man?
I'm doing fine, Brother Jeremiah.
Great to have you on. Great to have you on. Appreciate it, man. And, we have also Travis Bowen, guest one of my partners, and Mr. Shawn Wilson. Guys, how are you?
Doing good, Jeremiah. Thank you.
But yeah, Abe, thank you. You saved us tonight, so
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Like I said, we were gonna get you on anyway at some point, but didn't expect it to be soon. But anyway, man, I know you've had a lot of experiences, man, with a lot of different things. I know we've talked about things before, and I'm gonna get into with the limited time we do have tonight. Can you just start by giving us maybe a quick bio on yourself? And
yes, on Facebook I'm Abe Sias, but my real name is Abe Sias.
Okay.
Abe Sias is my real name. Was born in the Rio Grande Valley in South Texas, and was in the military 10 years. And I stayed up here in the Killeen area, Temple area. I've been up here since 1991 in this area. So I've been up here in this area longer than I've been back home. And I have one son, and I moved to Temple because of the incidents that were happening where I used to live in Killeen, Texas. I had to move out of that area. That's who I am.
Okay. Gotcha. Now, as far as how did you get into this type of stuff? Research and cryptid, paranormal, this whole crazy fiasco we're all involved in.
My journey started a long time ago, actually, when I was very, very young. I was like 2-3 years old. What had happened is one of my brothers, my older brother, he had gotten real sick, and they had him in the hospital, and they said that he was going to die. So the doctor just didn't have a cure to cure him. And they said he was going to die. So they had to seek other means of curing him. So they said there was a woman in Mexico that was what they call a curandera, which is a medicine woman.
Okay.
She said that she would help cure him, but that they had to leave me there with her for 6 months in Mexico after she cured him. So I remember when my brother got cured, I was there. She lived in a hut, and the floors were made out of dirt. And this happened in Reynosa, Mexico. And my brother, what was the matter with my brother is he had a very high fevers. He was always hallucinating. He was seeing snakes, spiders, and he was always screaming. He had one hand that was injured. It was always like this, and one of his legs, he was walking like he was crippled. So what the lady said that somebody had done something wrong to him, like spiritually.
Yeah.
The day that they cured him, I remember she had an open flame fire on the ground, and she grabbed an egg and she started rubbing it on his arm and on his leg, and she was saying something in Spanish, a prayer, I guess. And as she was doing that, she cracked the egg. When she cracked the egg, a little baby chick came out with a broken wing and a broken leg. But then my brother, he was cured. His arm was normal, his leg was normal, and the fevers and all the things that were happening to him stopped. So he didn't have no more fevers, no more hallucinations. So I guess the bad that was done to him was in the baby chick. So after that, I remember I stayed with the medicine woman, and I would see her heal people. I guess she had me to the side, and I could see the little altar they had where the people would come into her hut, and then she would lay them on the table, and she'll be healing with her hands. I literally seen her grab like scorpions out of people's heads, barbed wire out of their stomachs, and I'm seeing this, as a kid, and I could see when the spirits or unclean spirits would leave the people's body, like if they had something wrong, like a bad omen on them, they would leave the body. You could see the shadow through the flame of the fire. You could see the shadows leaving out of the hut. And she would look at me and she would ask me in Spanish, did he go? And I would say yes. And I would point, I was a small kid, so I would just point where the shadows would leave the people's body. All I remember is I've seen a lot of that. And next thing you know, I had gone to the restroom. They had those outdoor restrooms where, no flush or nothing. And when I came out of the restroom, I seen a woman looking at me, and I was looking at her. She looked familiar to me, and she was crying. And then when I looked at her, it was my mom. It was like 6 months passed by, and she was there to pick me up. And I was, I guess, attached to this medicine woman because I remember when we go to the market, she wore all white. She had bullets from the time of Pancho Villa. She was an old woman, and she had a patch in her eye. She had no eye. And I remember going to the market with her, and the people were afraid of her. They would move away from her, But I think it wasn't enough because she was a bad person. It's because of the powers the things that you could do spiritually. And I think, well,
they didn't understand.
Yes, I didn't understand then, but I understand now.
No, I'm saying like people fear what they don't understand. I think
Yes, and you could see the people running, and she would look at me and she'll tell me, "How come everybody's afraid of me, and you're not afraid of me?" And the only thing I would hug her on the leg and I say, "I love you," in Spanish I would say, "Te quiero," I love you. That's what I would say to her. But then I remember when my mother took me back, but after seeing all those spiritual healings, I guess I just say blessed with those spiritual gifts of being able to see when there's something there, to hear. And I guess I picked it up after witnessing all those events. So it's been like this all my life. Ever since then, all my life, it's been a spiritual battle. I've had people don't want to believe in witches or warlocks. They exist. I've had them come up to me when I was like 10, 11 years old, out of nowhere. I remember one time I was coming from a track meet from school, and I was going to drink some water at this. It was a pharmacy, and they had a water fountain. I was drinking, and I was going through the aisle, and this lady appeared out of nowhere, and she had like an amulet in her hand, and she said, "Is your name Abran?" And I said, "Yes, ma'am," because I was sure about respect. And then she said, "Is your parents?" And she said my parents' name, Joaquin and Olga. And I said, "Yes." And then she just grabbed the amulet she had in her hand. She started chanting something. And I guess I'm spiritually blessed to be able to understand, that it was a spiritual challenge. So I'm looking at her chanting something that I don't understand what she's saying, but I know that I started praying the Our Father. When I was praying the Our Father, behind me I could see nothing but gold. It looked like angels behind me. And all I remember is the lady, she got so scared of what she seen behind me that she dropped the amulet and she took off running out of there. But that's the story of my life. I've been battling spiritually for a very long time. And that's how I got into the journey that I am right now. It's not because I asked for it, it's because that's the way it happened, you know?
Yeah.
And it's been a spiritual battle. I've seen witnessed so many things, you know? I've seen it where people have I call them an attachment, because it's not the people, like somebody gets mad or they act in a certain way. You know, I see beyond while the person's acting, I see what's within them, you know, and sometimes the way you break that free is by using love, using love to come against it. People say, what if they're coming at you in a threatful manner to attack you? You continue to use love, because so long you stay calm and relaxed, that's what you're going to overcome the enemy. It doesn't matter if it's spiritual or physical, you can overcome it in that manner. I've seen so many things, and it's I've had so many experiences that I wish I could record all the things that I've gone through, so people would understand that there is a balance.
Yeah, there
Balance.
definitely is. Yeah, I definitely agree with you there for sure. As far as now, as far as cryptid type experiences, what can you tell us about that end of it?
Of what I understand, man. What I not understand, but of what I've seen and witnessed. I can give you some experiences that are the experience of that. There's one when I was my dad. You know, I don't know what my grandmother was into or my dad, but all I know is when I hear stories about the Mothman. I remember there was a day that my dad had told me that there was a friend of his that was going to come, that he wanted me to meet a friend of his when I was like 10 years old. And he said, when he gets here, so you're going to sit right here by this tree. It was a blackberry tree. It was, it was right behind, it was a big tree. He said, you sit down right here. And when he gets here, I said, he told me, I want you to turn real slowly, but don't be afraid, okay? When he gets here, I just want to introduce you to my friend. So I'm sitting there waiting for his friend to come, because I knew he had a friend that was a man that would come and visit us. But I was sitting there, and all of a sudden he says, all right, son, turn around real slowly. I'm going to introduce you to my friend. He came a long ways to come visit you. So when I'm turning around, all I see is this big old black shadow figure, and he had red eyes, and he was as big as the tree itself, and it was right there on the tree looking at me. And when I looked at it, my instinct told me, I felt very scared, and my instincts told me to run inside the house. So I ran inside the house, and my dad was kind of laughing, and he said, "I told you not to be afraid." So, I really don't have a relationship with my dad, but that's one of the things that I remember of what I seen. It was this big old black shadow thing with red eyes, and it was huge. And it was on the tree itself.
Wow.
So whether it was a Mothman or whatever it was, all I know, it was huge. And now my dad is real old. He's like in his 70s. I really don't have a relationship with him, but I asked him about that incident, but he won't say nothing. He kind of like, he'd always say, "Oh, that's the past. Can't dwell in the past." But he never tells me what it was that he was trying to get me to meet.
What do you think? In your opinion, do you have any? What do you think?
Now that I'm older, I believe it was something. How my body felt that day, it was something very bad.
Okay.
Evil. Like I said, I don't know what he was involved in, just like I didn't know what my grandmother was involved in. But I started finding different stories as my grandmother passed away. I remember we were going in the hearse. I was one of the pallbearers. She was like 89 years old when she passed away. There were some strange events they have things that happen at the funeral home. I remember being in the funeral home. It was like 2 years or 3 years after that incident of what I seen at the tree. We was in the funeral home, and next thing you know, it seems like time stopped, and nobody's moving. The people that were talking, they're not moving or nothing. And it's open, and I see two big old tall figures with hoods, like a monk will wear. You cannot see their face, and one in the middle seemed like a woman with one of those hoods, and she was crawling on the floor like a snake, and nobody was moving. So I was actually seeing her. She went all the way up to the casket, and she was saying something in a different language. I don't know what she was saying. I know it was in Spanish. It was in English. And next thing you know, they walked backwards out of the funeral home. They walked backwards, and when they walked backwards, the doors closed. When the doors closed, it seems like time starts again, and everybody's talking like normal, and nobody saw this woman. You know, I told my mother about it, and she's like, "Oh no, it's just in your mind. It's your imagination because you know that was your grandmother, and you probably just imagined that. You know." So
can I ask a quick question? The language they were speaking, did it seem familiar to you?
no, it was more like a chant, like more of a chant. You know, like when somebody whispering or mumbling, more of a chant. Like it was in Spanish. I know that, but I would have been able to understand that. But what was weird is the one that was on the ground seemed it was moving like a snake-like creature, you know. But it seemed like a woman, right? You know, I told my mom about it, and she's like, "It's your imagination." So we take it from there to the church, right? So they take it to the church. We go up there, and we're sitting in the church, right? So they have her up there in the church, and the priest is up there. Next thing you know, the same thing that happened at the funeral home happened in the church. The doors open, and here they come down the middle of the aisle, and the people are frozen, kind of like if time stopped. And they go again and go up to her coffin, and they start doing the same thing, and then they back up. And when they back up, it's like time goes back to normal, and it's like nobody's seen them, you know. So I witnessed them 2 times.
Wow.
Can I throw in my 2 cents?
Yeah. And then when we take her in the hearse, right? Because my cousins way they were like way older than me. They were like probably 3 times my age. I was only like 11 or 12. I think 12 or 13 when she passed away. They were like in their 30s already. So we get in the back of the hearse, right? And we're driving there to the cemetery. So my cousin just starts singing that song, hi ho, the wicked is dead, you know? And I'm looking at him like, hey, why are you talking about grandma like that? And they start talking amongst each other. And they told one of my cousins is older than me, he tell me, hey, tell him what's up with her. And then my cousin told me that she was a witch. That's what they told me. So and then we took her to the burial ground to bury her. So that will make sense to me now of what I witnessed. It had to do something in that nature, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking that if it was within the family, that maybe my dad, you know, because he was close to his mom, might have been involved in something like that. My dad's still alive. He's 74, 75, and I know there's something there where he lives that jumps on him every time, you know, but I really do not go over there because I don't want to, you know, I'll cut those negative ties of the past from my family. If anybody was involved in anything like that, to cut those ties. That's not me, you know.
Yeah.
I do the spiritual works that I do because I've seen so many things.
Right.
I can give you one. There was one time it was raining outside. My grandfather is still alive. His name was Shawn, and we had chicken coops in the backyard. At that time I was like 5 years old, and you could hear the chickens. They were clucking in the chicken coop. And my grandfather said there's a possum. You know, in Spanish it's a tacuache. It means possum. and he grabbed a stick. Said, "I'm gonna go in there and get the possum out of the coop because he's gonna kill the chickens." So he goes in there, and it was like a cabin, but it was a chicken coop, right? So he goes in there. Next thing you know, I hear my grandfather yelling, like he's in pain, So I grab a little stick and I go there, and as I enter the doorway, and I look, my grandfather is elevated up in the air. I say he's like at that time like 4 or 5 feet off the ground. He was a big man. He was like 6'2", 6'3". He's elevated off the ground, and when I look, I see this dark figure with his red eyes. Like a witness later on, but this one I was young, and I seen it looking at me, and it was looking at. I seen it looking at me as I was looking at it. So it grabbed my grandfather. You could see where scratches were appearing on his body, like just coming out of nowhere.
How many, if you don't mind me asking? Like,
it was like they were just appearing out of nowhere, like on his arms.
like as far as like one like lines of 1, 2, or 3, or
the lines of threes were popping out of nowhere, and his arms, on his chest, on his back, on his face, and I looked at it, and it looked at me, and then it dropped my grandfather, and it went from looking like to me it looked like something huge, like a giant of sort, and it came at me like in a form of smoke, like a massive smoke coming straight at me. And as I'm there, coming towards me, it's like lunging at me. I start praying within myself, the Our Father, As I was a kid, but I knew the Our Father. And it was coming at me. It didn't come. It took a left and went out the window. It broke the window, and it left a little hole where it went through there. The smoke went through that little hole. My grandfather, he felt, he was on the ground, and then next thing you know, my grandmother's there and everybody else, because they were hearing him screaming, screaming real loud. And they said, "What happened?" And I was like trying to tell them that there was this shadow figure with their red eyes had him in the air. And my grandfather looked at me, and he put his head down, and he said, "No, it wasn't nothing like that. It was just a possum that did this to me." But he was cut up like bad on his back, everywhere.
Wow.
But I'm thinking that there was more involved in what was happening to them. Yeah, there was a lot more involved there. It's just, I never got to find out what it was that they were dealing with. And that's probably the things that I might be dealing with right now,
Yeah, for sure. Travis, you guys want to ask a question?
Yes.
Yeah. As far as at your grandma's funeral, I'm a little torn on what you told me. I mean, I didn't know your grandmother or anything about her. I mean, obviously, but I'm thinking in my mind, first of all, your childhood experiences opened you up to this, to where you can see things and experience and be aware of things that other people cannot. And I do very much believe in that. I'll tell you right now.
Me too.
I've experienced and seen a couple of things that I really didn't want to. I'm almost wondering if those figures that came, it was almost like they were trying to take her, but they backed out and left both times at the funeral service and at the graveside, as because she had been saved or protected, and they tried, but they couldn't.
Towards the end, before she passed away, she would always get me to read the Bible in Spanish, and she would ask me, "What does that mean?" And I'm thinking she was involved in something spiritually, like she might have been involved with. The reason I said she might have been involved, I'm gonna share this story with you, brothers. Is because I remember events, and that's why I try to keep a track of all the events that I go through. So because I know that somewhere along the line I'll be able to help somebody that might be going through the same thing that maybe I might have gone through.
Yep.
But there was a Sunday. There was a Sunday that I was at her house, and she was making this dish that's like a dessert called capirutada. It's got like apples, bread, sweet bread, raisins, onions, and apples, and it's it's real delicious. And I was there eating my caperutada at her house on a Sunday. Next thing you know, I heard somebody knock at her in the front door. So I go walk, and there was this man standing there. He had a red shirt and some blue jean pants, and he asked me in Spanish, "Is a woman of the house here?" And I said, "Yes." And I went to go grab my grandmother. She could barely walk at that time, and she was walking real slow. Then she seen him, and she had a certain look in her face, like she was surprised, but she was like, had a look in her face. So we walked back to the kitchen, and the man sat down on the table, and she gave him a bowl of the same thing I was eating, capiruta, and just put it in front of him, right? So when he put the food in front of him, he started eating it like a dog would eat food. I'm literally, he was eating it like a dog out of the bowl, like eating like this man, right? So as I'm looking at this man eating this bowl out of the bowl like a dog, I see the right leg, his right leg was twitching. I was like looking, I was a kid, it was twitching, and I see gnats flying off the leg. So I'm looking, so I was a kid, all suspicious, and I said, well, I want to see where those gnats are coming from there. So I went underneath her table, and I lifted his pants. When I lifted his pants, I seen the leg, what seems to be like of a beast or like of a donkey or something like that. And when I lifted his pant leg, he kicked me, right? So as I got scared, and I went to the side away from him, and I'm looking at him like, whoa, this is not a person, So I'm looking at him, and he's looking at me, and he gets up, and he looks at my grandmother, and he says, you know what time it is? He said, it's that time. That's what he tells her in Spanish. And my grandmother was like, no, it's not time yet. It's not time yet. And said, it's that time now. He said, either. Then he looked at me and he said, he's pretty strong. So I'm going to take him. And my grandmother was like, no, you're not going to take him. And he said, well, if I can't take him, then who I'm going to take? That's what he said. So then my grandmother said, one of her sons, which is my uncle, he said my Esteban's name. He said his name. So the man got up, walked out of her house, and he said something about 1 year, in 1 year, right? So he left, and as he was leaving, I started running after him. They told me not to get near him. My mother, because we live right beside my grandmother, my mother said, hey, come back, leave, don't go near that man, right? So as he was going up the hill, he was walking, and I was running behind him. When I went up the hill and I seen him turn, he was gone. He vanished like out of thin air. He was gone. He just disappeared, like out of plain sight, like left this world.
Right.
So
Wow.
after that incident, what happened is things started happening at my uncle's house, Esteban, Uncle Steve. Well, Steve will be his name in English. Things started happening over there where he was actually getting spiritually attacked. He was getting, you could say, possessed. Things were happening to him over there. So that's why I believe that it was a lot more deeper than that what my cousins were saying in the ambulance was true. That it was a lot deeper than that, I guess back then days, a lot of people can get deceived by joining something, and it's a choice to make, it's a personal choice to make. The only thing I can do as a third generation person is protect my generation, my son or my next of kin, and I have to cut those ties, and I not accept whatever they did or whatever they got promised to, whatever they did. I cut those ties,
Right. This is amazing stuff, man. I mean, I'm gonna tell you right now, man. I totally believe every word you're saying because my wife is a sensitive and has had many experience. She has gifts or a curse, if you ever want to, however you want to put it, and it's told me stuff very similar to this. So yeah, man, it's I can't imagine, going with you what that felt like, knowing what that felt like. Just unbelievable. Shawn, I know you had a question at some one point you wanted to ask?
Oh, what? One more of a comment. The Mexican witchcraft shit is real. You know, I've heard similar stories, similar accounts of people. One in
Absolutely.
particular, I remember hearing this woman's story who, the same sort of thing. She had to go stay with the witch for like 6 months in order for her. It was a similar story. I can't remember exactly what happened, but the witch was actually a bad woman, and real weird stuff. There was curses put on her and her sister by her aunt.
Yes.
And this witch, after this witch had died, some other woman took over, like took her place in the village, and she did horrible things to people left and right. But yeah, I've heard similar stories to this, and I believe it, man. It's not something you want to mess with, and if you can break those ties, you got to break those ties.
Yeah.
I grew up seeing dead cats hanged up on the fence, gutted out, where all this black magic, whatever things were happening, where people were putting them on their fence. You know, it was pretty bad. I found out later on, now that I'm older, but talking to other relatives that I didn't know that they were related to me, I found out what the real deal behind all that was. You know, and what was happening, brothers, is that there was a spiritual warfare, but it was a wicked spiritual warfare. It was a war between witches. This is what's happening.
Yeah.
See, what happened was what I found out was that my grandfather, the one that was being attacked, well, he had a relationship with his brother's wife, and both of them had the same name. My grandmother's name was Maria, and the lady that my grandfather had an affair was Maria, which was his own brother's wife. But what it was is that she was a witch, and my other grandmother was a witch. And that's why all the crazy things that were happening around my house, because we live in the same lot. Like, it was a 4 lot. We live right beside my grandmother, so we witnessed all the spiritual things where there was I guess a demon or bad omens over here to her house, and then we just going back and forth. You know, I'll give an example of the back and forth. It's like every Saturday night. We were all young still, or like I guess I was like in 5th grade, 4th grade, 3rd grade. From as far as I can remember, this is the things that would happen. It would be a Saturday night. My dad would go to church on Saturdays because I had a mass on Saturdays. So we stay at the house with my mother. We're not even there 30 minutes at the house. It's already like 8:39. And next thing you know, she will grab us, put us in the middle. It's like the same routine we would do all the time. And she's like, "Do you hear that? Do you hear that?" And next thing you know, you start hearing women talking out by the windows. You start hearing scratches on the walls, on the screens, bangings on the doors. Then you could hear something running on top of the roof, banging. Our house was made on pillars, so you could hear banging underneath. Where you're actually standing, and somebody's banging underneath you, and you move somewhere else, and it's like they're banging where you're at, you know. And you can hear the pounding on the walls, and all these things will happen, and you can hear this. I don't know if you heard of lechuzas. There's the stories of the lechuzas, which is the witches that turn into owls of sort. So
Yeah.
on the side of the house, you can hear them scratching their talons, and they're whispering something, and they're laughing. You can hear women laughing out there by the trees. So as I grew older, I was like, you know what? I'm not afraid of this. I would go outside because our yard had big old pieces of rock. So I would see them on the trees. You know, you just see a black figure. It was no owl, because I've seen owls here. It was just a big old black figure on the tree, and I'd be throwing big old rocks at it. But they were so huge that the rocks I would throw them wouldn't do nothing to them. You know.
Right.
So next thing you know, out of the darkness, because down south it's pretty dark at nighttime, will come my grandmother. You see, my grandmother will come out of the darkness, and she'll go to where those witches were. She'll say something in a different language, and next thing you know, they'll fly away from those trees. So when they fly away from the trees, she will come to me and she'll tell them, "You're not afraid of them?" I said, "No." And she's like, "You told your mom that I already took care of it." So she will go back to her house. So it was a spiritual battle that we're caught up in the middle of that was happening.
Right.
And we got affected by it because there's no fence in between our house. It was just her house and our house, so it's just in one big yard. So some of the things I can there's one of the things that would happen all the time when I lived there when I was growing up. Uh, but I didn't know I was caught up in a spiritual or war battle of witches. You know,
Yeah.
later on, I started talking to some cousins just to make sense of the things that I would witness when I was growing up.
Wow. That's definitely some intense stuff, man. It would now, you know, I mean, you don't have to talk about this if you don't want to, but as
You can
you
ask any.
know, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead. I didn't hear you, Abe. I'm sorry.
You can ask any questions y'all
Oh,
like.
okay.
Just here.
Now, I know you said as you got older, you know, you're still experiencing it. Now, any time did it get worse? Did it get better and then escalate again or de-escalate again, or has it held a specific pattern? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's still it happens all the time. Ever since I moved to Temple to where I live at, it hasn't happened too much because I try to stay within the house. You know, I have protection within the house. I bless my home and
Right.
stuff like that. I guess it's within the bloodline. So
Yeah.
the thing about me being spiritually gifted, you know, when you talk about, I've seen the creatures, brothers, that you're talking about. I've seen this Dogman. I've seen this squash-like figures. Uh, Throughout the years. When I was in high school, I was running down the dirt road. I'm going to talk about what I believe is to be a Bigfoot. I didn't get to see it, but I'm going to tell you what happened. I was running down the dirt road because that's how I would train. I was a long distance runner, and I was running down the dirt road. It was still daylight, and next thing you know, as I'm running, I get hit by something. Boom! It hits me, and it's all over my face, all over my body. And when I look, there's nothing but shit on my face, shit on my
Oh,
body. I'm looking to the sky to see if I see a flying bird or something. There was nothing in the sky. And the only thing that was nearby me was some woods. There was a woods right beside me to the right. And I was trying to figure out where did the shit come and hit me? I mean, I had it on my face and on my shirt that
right.
I don't know where it came from. Right? There was no airplane in the sky or nothing, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Just boom, it hit me, and I'm looking. So what was closer to me was the cemetery where because I lost my mom when I was 15. So I went there and used the water to clean myself up, but I was like trying to figure out what hit me. You know, there was nothing there. You know, it's like a flying. Somebody threw. To me, it felt like somebody threw it at me. You know, I'm talking about it. I was probably weighing like 142 pounds, so I was skinny. It knocked the crap out of me. You know, like I was
Right.
running. Boom! It hit me, the face and the chest, and I'm looking, and I'm thinking somebody's playing a prank on me, and I'm looking and I'm trying to yell out, "Hey, who's there? Who's there?" But I got the shit on my face and on my body, and I'm looking for airplanes or something in the sky. There's nothing.
Wow.
So to me, I felt like I was being how should I say marked in some kind of way. I mean, I would always go down that road to visit, go to my mom's to visit, or run down that road to visit my mom's grave at the cemetery. So that's one of the incidents that happened to me. But then one night, the same path, we had an old '56 Ford. I got on the Ford truck and I was driving the same path. I wanted to go visit my mom's grave. It was nighttime. As I was going 40 miles an hour down that dirt road, right, I could see the ranch behind me because you could see the light, and I could see the house of the ranch as I'm going down towards the road to go to the cemetery. So I'm going 40 miles an hour. Next thing you know, I look and the poles in front of me I'm not passing them. They're staying stationary. And I'm looking at my speedometer and they're saying 40 miles an hour. And I'm looking, and then when I look up, I don't see the light behind me. I just see a big old giant figure behind me. So as I'm looking at this figure, it's like it drops the back of the truck down on the ground. And when it hits on the ground, I lose control of the truck and I almost run into the pole. So I get scared because I don't know what is it that was that strong to pick at the back of a 56 Ford?
Right.
Well, I took off home. You know, I left. I didn't stop. I went home. I was scared. I guess I was pale from the face. I told my brother, I told my cousin what had happened, and they were like, "Oh, it's just your imagination." But when they went to go check out the truck, they could smell a beastly smell. And as they smelled this beastly smell, they noticed that the tailgate was ripped and it was just hanging from the back.
Wow.
So I'm thinking that right there could have been a possible, to me, how big of what I've seen, a possible Bigfoot.
Yeah, I mean, it had to have been something, like you said, powerful enough to, you know, do that. The tailgate, lift the back end of your truck up. I mean, yeah, that's pretty that's pretty intense, man. We were just talking about in the last show we just did our discussion group about the whole Dogman ordeal. You know, few of us are on the fence with it, few of us aren't. It's a little debate amongst our group. Not a bad one, but we have our discussions. Us here, I think they're out there. Have you said you may have had experiences
Yes,
with
with
stuff
the
like that?
Dogman,
Yeah,
I've seen the first time I seen a Dogman was when I was 17 years old, but I didn't know that was a Dogman because I didn't know there was such a creature. Uh,
right,
it was a day I was walking to go visit my aunt, and I was passing the church. I was turning around to go down this. I was like 5 blocks away from my aunt's house, and I seen something. It caught my vision. I seen something following me through the yards. And when I
right,
looked, the face looked like of an animal, but the body didn't. The body looked like of a person, And the first thing I think is, well, maybe somebody's trying to play a prank on me. But this is I'm talking about back in 1986. That's
sure,
a long time ago, right? So I'm going and I seen them following me, and I start getting scared because I seen 4 or 5 of them following me. You see,
oh,
and what was scary about that is the face. The face looked like of an animal, but the body, at that time, the body still looked like of a human being. So I got scared, and our church, the Catholic church, well, we'll go to. You could always go see the priest anytime. So I'll go knock I'm banging on the priest's door, and he said, "What's happening, son?" And I was like, "Well, something's following me, priest." He said, "Come with me." So he took me to the church. He took me into his room, and I said, "What's bothering you?" And I was telling him that I was walking, and these things were following me. And he's like, "It's just it might be just your imagination, son." That's what he's telling. His name was Father Ralph. So as I'm talking to him, right, the doors behind me opened up. And through his glasses, he wore glasses, I could see him. I could see the beast through the lenses of his glasses. They were behind me. They opened the door. And the
whoa,
priest looking, and he starts sweating. He starts trembling. And he ran me off. He said, "Get out of here, get out of here." And I started praying with myself, I mean, I
right.
thought he's supposed to help me. So I got out of the church real cautiously, and I'm looking around to see if I see him, and I don't see him. So I took up running to my aunt's house. I was like two more blocks down. I made it safely to my aunt's house. Uh, that priest, he left the church within that week. He was gone.
Wow.
He requested to get moved from there. His name was Father Ralph. But I seen these creatures, that looked like dog from the face, but this creature that I seen initially, the bodies were of humans. So what was it?
Right. Yeah.
That
Did
form.
you? I mean, that's interesting. I know we hear different, we hear different descriptions of them and stuff, and it's probably dark, so you probably didn't get a real good look at,
Yeah,
fine detail, right?
yeah. After that, I joined the military, and went to the military and all that. But then I had my encounter up in Killeen. That's why I live in Temple now. I moved there. I was living there from 2002 all the way to 2015, and it was a constant spiritual battle there, man. That I see so many things there. This Dogman that the people say they're real, not real. I've seen them. I've seen them there. They're not afraid to show their presence to
Right.
me. They'll be right there beside my house. They'll come bang on the walls. I was seeing people their heads over the SUVs, just looking at me. At the park where I live, and when I used to live in Killeen at the Elms Grove, it's called Elms Grove State Parks in Killeen, Texas. It's nearby the old airport. I was sitting on the park bench. And the big old tree is the oak tree. There's nothing but oak trees there in that park. The oak tree branch broke behind me, and he landed behind the picnic table. Well, as he landed behind the picnic table, to my left, something landed beside me, and he was like 4 feet away from me. When I looked like this, he looked at me like this. It was huge. I was like, what in the hell is that? But
Yeah.
I guess I was heavily medicated at the time. I had some meds in me,
Mhm.
and I had somebody else there with me too that witnessed it. And I'm looking at me, and it takes off running into the creek. It goes through the bushes into the creek. Next thing you know, it comes out of the creek and runs straight through the park, and it's running on twos.
Right.
It's huge, and I was like, when I hear about Dogman, I said, well, how in the hell is something that big on top of a tree? It weighs so much, I guess, that it broke the tree branch. I'm talking about a thick tree branch, not a
Right.
little thick. The oak branches are huge. It literally broke a big old tree behind me. The branch.
Now, if you were to give did you, as far as the description goes, and did you get a good look at? Would you be able to give us a good description of that one, as far as facial
I
features?
believe that one was like a younger one, not a full mature, because I've seen the other ones. But that one, it had reddish fur, and the way the heads are shaped, they're not the snouts that they say that they're huge. They're not huge. They're like smaller
Yeah.
snouts. It's confusing but their legs, the way their legs are, they're like inward.
Okay, those
Like
are okay. We were talking about that earlier. Yeah.
canines, but this one was pretty tall, but it wasn't as big as the other ones that I encountered. Because I went, several things happened to me. After that encounter. Well, before that was the second time I had seen one, but the first time encounter, this is what happened. I'm gonna tell y'all before, because I think I jumped the gun on that one, but I'll give you a full description of it. It was around this time frame, like around November of 2015. I was inside my room already asleep at like 3 a.m. And I'm there, and then my sister comes and says, Abe, I think something's happening outside. It's like, what do you mean? I said, well, I hear a woman's yelling for help. She needs help. So I go out there, I'm in my boxers. I go out there, and I could hear a woman yelling for help, So I go inside, put on my warm-ups, and I grab a bat, I said, well, if somebody is doing something to this woman, I'm going to surprise them and hit them with it, But I had to find out where it was happening, because I could hear the help coming from the park. So I grabbed the bat and I'm walking. I got no flashlight. It's dark. And I go through the park, and I'm by the swing set, and I hear the woman yelling for help from inside the woods. So I'm going to start following this path that's in the woods, and the cry for help is getting closer and closer. So I got the bat, and I'm fixing to swing it as I hear her real close to me, just yelling for help. Well, as I'm fixing to swing the bat, the cry for help stops. So I'm looking, I'm paramilitary, so I'm looking to see if I see any kind of movement or another cry for help. I'm using my senses, I'm looking, and I've got the bat in my hand, and I don't hear no more cry for help. So I'm there looking, then I look through the woods, because by then the leaves are already falling around this time frame. They're falling from the trees. And I could see the club in the corner. I said, well, maybe somebody at the club, something's happening. The club was closed. There was nobody there, It was just an empty parking lot. So as I'm looking there, yeah, I don't know, something within me just didn't feel right. I felt like I got set up, That's
Do
how it
you
felt like.
think? Yeah. Do you think it was that it was it, let's call it a creature or whatever they are, actually mimicking the voice of a woman in distress to get you to?
I believe that when I turned around, that's when I believe that I got deceived by it, because when I turned around to go back down the path, that's when I seen them. The closest one to me was probably 4 to 5 feet. That was the one it was looking straight at me. His eyes were white, and he was real tall, just looking down towards me. That was the closest to me. And I've seen two other ones, like maybe in, I would say like 5 meter intervals. And then on this side, there were like three of them standing on the other side of the woods, because in the path I was in, there was woods to the right and woods to the left. But the way I knew they were there is because I could see their eyes glowing, looking at me. They were looking at me, So I'm there looking at them. And they're just looking at me. So I had three options. I could go 15 feet into the creek, but I would have to go cut through the woods, or I could take a left and go towards the highway that's there, but that's probably like 25 to 30 feet away from me. I would have to cut through there. And then I said, well, shoot, if I go that way, they're going to chase me. There's six of them, Well, I don't know what I was dealing with. All I know is that I see them, I see their silhouettes, and they're looking at me. So the only thing that I can do is, like I said, I'm a spiritual person.
Hmm?
I just took my body into spirit form, like they literally took my mind, ignored what was around me, because I know you're not supposed to be afraid, because if they sense fear, they're going to attack. So I took my mind
Right.
somewhere else and started praying, I started praying, started saying the Our Father, and I started walking the only way out was the same path I walked in. That was the shortest to me to get out of there, because it would take me to my house. So as I was walking, I could see it turning his head, looking at me, and he was looking down at me, the closest one, and the others were looking at me also, but I just ignored them. I could see their eyes, their heads tilted, moving. I just walked out of there. I never turned back, but I could feel one right behind me. I could feel it. I could feel it. At the time that I went there, I had a cold, so I couldn't really smell nothing.
Right.
Then some. I never turned back. I walked through the park back to my home. I never turned back. When I got home, I went straight to the shower and took the shower to get the scent of fear off of me, because I didn't know what was going on. All I know was in a situation that something bad could have happened to me.
Yeah.
But I felt tricked, deceived.
Sure.
Following day, I went back to the area. Even though I didn't want to go there, I went there just to take pictures to see if I could find tracks, or to see if I could see something, that something was still there of what I encountered the night before. And my nephew was with me. He's in the military now. He's just been this is his first year in the military. He was young. He was like in sixth grade. I think he was like 11 or 12. And I showed him I gave him my phone, and I just told him to take random pictures. Well, in one of the random pictures that he took, you could see something in the picture in the woods. And that's the one that I have on my site. The spiritual encrypted encounter. That photo is the one that he captured. It was the day after the encounter, and I guess it was still there. One of them, he captured one but in the photo it's crazy, because you can see many other things within the photo.
Right. That's amazing. It's extremely interesting. It's extremely.
Well, can I jump in?
Yeah, go ahead, Chuck.
Jeremiah can vouch for this. I know a whole lot of weird stuff, and I think too much. So everything you've been telling us, and I don't doubt any of it at all. I've seen more than I wanted to. You say you're spiritual.
Yes.
I doubt that. You're a religious man, correct?
Yes.
Have faith.
Yes.
So you as a child were exposed to a world that a lot of people will never be exposed to directly. That alone makes you a target. and it makes you a target for the enemy. We all know basically it's Satan, the devil, Beelzebub. Every culture has a name for him. So putting you in that arena simply makes you a target. The fact that you are spiritual, you talked about the old woman approaching you as a child with the amulet. You were being challenged as a target then, and you showed your faith. That made you like a trophy. I mean, you were a trophy. Reason being, people that aren't doing that great in life, spiritually, faithfully, they'll pass them by. But someone who is truly spiritual, faithful, trying, and coming from some of your family's background that probably did dabble in things that they shouldn't have, that really makes you a target. Now, the thing you saw that your daddy presented to you as a child came to you as what you describe as a Mothman. The next thing you saw was at your grandma's funeral was these dark figures, one of which slithered like a snake. Then lastly, you've been approached by what presented itself as basically a Dogman.
There was six of them.
Well,
yes.
Just give me a minute. I'm getting to a point. I'll lose my train of thought if I don't finish it. Human beings, genetically, whether it be hereditary or whatever, we're afraid of the dark. We're naturally afraid of water until we're taught to swim. And we're typically afraid of the apex predators, being birds of prey, big serpents, and mammal carnivores, whether it be big cats, canines, or even bears. The point I'm getting at is they're attacking you in every angle of your primal fears. Big birds, serpents, big canines. And what they're doing is demonic forces prey off of your fear, and they manifest whatever they can out of your subconscious, your predetermined thoughts. It could be a scary movie you watched, a story you were told as a child, but they will prey on your basic fears that's within you to give them power and strength over you to try and manipulate you, to weaken you spiritually and through your faith. That's what I'm getting from everything you just told us. Yeah. That's my personal opinion.
There were some people that wanted to come into the area because they heard about my experience. So there was people that came because they wanted to look at the area where that's not the only thing that was happening there, because other things that were happening was also, this is in Killeen, was the shadow figures that started appearing out of nowhere, and there would be a bunch of them. There would be like 15, 20 of those. They'll be running around in the park, they'll be coming to my home, and they'll be entering my home, and I would have to go out there and pray around my house because they would come to my house, and I was living by myself. My sister would stay with me, and my nephews and nieces would stay with me. So those were happening, and some people had heard of what's happening, and they wanted to come to see for themselves, because it's like, well, I don't believe what you're saying, so well, come on over and find out for yourself. But the only thing I can tell you, I'll tell them, be careful, because they know your spirit, so they know know what's within you, you know.
Absolutely.
So there was this woman, this girl they brought, and she's.
Wait, Hadley, did I give you your charger yet?
Was it? Good?
I don't know.
That one on my end.
Yeah.
So what happened? There was this girl that she said she could do things like leave her body and spirit, and to be able to see what's there spiritually. So she came to where I lived. They brought her. She was supposed to be somebody very famous or something like that, that she could do these things and come and clean areas. So she went there saying that she wasn't afraid of nothing that was there. And I told her, don't say that too loud, you know, because of what I was going through. So she went there, and she took me to this area that you're talking about, where you ran into this creatures. So I took her there, and it was dark already. It was I took her into the area where I heard the woman, right, that was yelling for help.
Mm-hmm.
And by herself, and I just pointed to the area. She went there, and she was there for about 10 seconds, and she was like, "Do you hear that? Do you hear that?" And then she says, "Oh my God!" And she took off running out of the path, and as she was running, there was this giant red orb chasing her, and it chased. And when I went out there to see where she was at, she was laid out on the ground. It like drained all her energy, whatever it was. It drained her energy. I had to literally pick her up. All her body had bumps from her face, her arms, her whole body had like blisters all over her body.
Ooh.
I had to help her out of there. She never came back. She was the one that brought her had to help me carry her, and she was seeing the things that I would see, but she was in like a hallucination. Like she was all panicky and screaming and pointing on what she was seeing, and the things that she would see is what I would see. But she never came back to the area. Then I had some other people that came to record stuff that they were recording. They had camcorders and all that, and things happened to them, to the crew that came out, and then they never came back to show me the video they recorded or the audio they recorded. They never came back because two of the members that got an attack, I had to literally pick them up and carry them out of the woods because they got their energy drained.
I've had to do that with my wife because of her abilities. And, Travis, what he just said to you, and I don't know if you remember this, Travis, this summer, I went through something attached itself to me. And Travis said the same thing to me, you and I, this as well. My grandmother, she was Mohawk, and she was I don't know how you want to put it, but she was a healer, a practitioner of good, she used all her stuff for good. But he's right, and I think between her, and I'm an empath as well, and my wife, her ability, the gifts she has. I think he makes a good point. I think that made me a target, and I literally dealt. You can ask these guys. I talked to them both about it. I dealt with spiritual warfare for what, Travis, about a month straight. I mean,
Oh yeah, every bit of it.
Every bit of it. It's not fun, and that's for sure. It definitely is not. Is not fun.
It got to the point so bad that I was literally getting attacked. I'm talking about I was literally getting hit out of nowhere by an unseen force. I was getting hit in the back. I was getting shoved from the back. I would fly 4 or 5 feet, tumble. Now I would get up, but there'll be nobody around me.
Yeah.
One time I was walking through a path. It was a shortcut, and you had to go through a cliff, to go through the creek to get to where I live, the park, to get through where I live. And as I was walking down the path, I got shoved off the path into the temple drop, by unseen force. Luckily, I grabbed the branch, and I was able to the branch was able to bend enough so I could land safely in the creek. So it went from me seeing things and hearing things to actually getting physically attacked.
Right.
And I had welts on my back, scratches on my back. I got pictures of the scratches and stuff that I would come out of nowhere, where I was getting hit. And I was like, well, what am I doing wrong? I would say, I've already forgiven. I said, what am I doing wrong that these things continue to happen? I'm tired of getting attacked, because it was a daily thing that was happening to me, So I said, well, I gotta find out what I'm doing wrong to be able for this thing to stop, because I was praying every day. So what I found out is that I had to forgive people of my past. And I said, is there people from my past that I have forgiven? And a couple of names popped up to my mind, so I forgave them truthfully. As I forgave them truthfully, and I said, God, I forgive them. And, anybody that has ever come at me in a negative way, I forgave them. Well, that night that I forgave is when they appeared to me. But you see, what appeared to me wasn't the things that I was seeing. What appeared to me was, it was 4 of them, they were in my room, that appeared in my room, and they were talking to me telepathically, and they wanted to show me something. So they showed me a place, and I guess this place that they showed me was Sinai, where people get tortured, and they were showing me all the people that were tortured, where those people that were coming off their body and going back on their body, and they were showing me this, and they were talking to me telepathically, and this is what they told me: what we want you to do is kill yourself, take your life. Yeah, they said, if you take your life, we will mess with your son. That's what they told me. And then I said, first of all, I've already forgiven everybody from my past. So I tie, bind, and rebuke you in Jesus' name. And second of all, my son is protected by the Heavenly Father. And when I said that, I tie, bind, and rebuke them. That's one of the last times that I've seen any physical contact, like that I've actually got an attack physically. That's when I moved. I moved to a temple, which is maybe 40 minutes away from that area. But all the things that were happening there didn't follow me over here where I'm at. And I believe it's because I forgave. You know, I believe it's dealing with cutting negative ties, you know, whether it's generational curses or whether it's something that someone we haven't forgiven or we've done something bad when you ask for forgiveness. You know, those are openings.
Yeah. All of that ties into every negative thing in your life.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, regret,
Yes.
you know,
Feeling-
everything negative, things you've done bad, wrongs you've done to other people.
Yes.
You all of that's negative, but it all ties down to one thing. And I mean, this is something me and Jeremiah talked about.
Mhm.
It's, you know, it's a difference when you fight, you know, physically, you know, say it's
Yes.
a person, a man in front of you, that's a physical fight.
Yes.
But when you're talking about on a spiritual level, there's a deep down fear that has nothing to do with your physical life, and typically it has to do with the ones you care about around you.
Absolutely.
And that's a protection instinct as a man.
Yeah.
And once you can overcome that spiritually and mentally, and get to the point that you realize that you are a child of God and you do have all power.
Yeah, when I was in the Army, 19 years old, when I was in basic training, I got in a lot of fights against African American. They didn't like Hispanics. I was stationed in Germany. I got in force fights. I was in an all-black platoon, and I got forced to fight Bandingo fights. You know, it wasn't even fair fights because they would make me work from 5 in the morning till like 6 at night, and then before I would go into the village, they would call me, hey, they're calling you over here. And they will take me around the building, and they'll tell me, take off your top. And they'll bring people from other battalions to fight me. And I really didn't want to fight them. They told me, either you fight or we're going to do this to you. So within myself, you know, I had to take myself somewhere else. You know, what they didn't know is that I knew how to fight, and I would train, my spiritual senses. So they put me in this fights where I had no choice but to fight, but I would knock them out real fast. I would say, how am I going to survive after the first week of beating up people or knocking them out? Like, well, when is this going to stop? She said, well, I'm going to have to figure out something. If they're going to make me fight every day, so I got to figure out how am I going to do it. So, well, the fastest way to do it is knock them out as fast as you can, you know? So for about 2 months, they made me fight every day with me being tired. And I was knocking every person out, knocking them out, you know, and within myself, my heart felt bad because that wasn't me, you know. I was a person that has love in my heart, but when you're placed in a situation and then they're giving you choice to do that, it's like it wants you to change your heart, to have anger and hatred, but find a way to manage to maintain love in my heart, you know. But basically what I'm saying, I got in 40 fights, knocked them all out of 40 fights, and I was only weighing like 155 pounds. Just people that I fought were of different weight groups. I fought people that were 180, 200, 220, 230, 240, different heights than me. The last fight that they made me fight, this guy was like 6'9". He was African American. I was seeing him lift like over 600 pounds at the gym. And he came to fight me and said, "This is the guy you're all afraid of?" That was my last fight that I ever fought. He's like, "This is the little guy." And he looked at me and he said, "I'm going to grab you. When I grab you, I'm going to break your back and you're going to be paralyzed for the rest of your life." That's what he told me. And I'm looking at him. And the only source of energy that I had was the remembrance of my mother. So I looked at him and I said, "Did you say something about my mother?" And he said all kinds of bad things about my mother, but he didn't know that my mom was deceased. So I used that as energy. So what I noticed about him, yeah, he was a big guy, but he was too slow. I gave him open shots to hit me, but I was too fast for him. You know, he was missing, and I let him use all his energy. And I was kind of like toying with him because, you know, he was talking a lot of things about my mother. So I only hit him one time, and I didn't even hit him with a fist. I just hit him with this little bone here. Hit him right here in the vein. No, there was no referees. I hit him on the temple vein. One quick blow. I let him take a hook. He missed, and I hit him right in the temple area. He's looking at me, and his whole body just dropped to the ground. I cut the circulation to his brain, pressure point. Cut the circulation to his brain, and I put my knees on his shoulders. He was passed out, and I was fixing to cave in his nose, because he had said a lot of bad things about my mother. They pulled me off for him, and they told me to get away from him, that I was crazy. And that was the last fight that I ever fought. I let my first sergeant know what was happening, and I got some of those guys that made me fight to be a testimony as witnesses of what they made us do. Because every fight that I fought, there's one thing I would do. I would find the person I fought, and I would let them know that I wasn't their enemy, that I'd rather have them a friend than an enemy. So I made peace with all those people that I fought because I wanted to keep love in my heart, And it was a bad situation for me because that's when I found out about racism, that it really exists. And, I didn't know nothing about that. Where I come from was nothing but Spanish people. But I'm telling you, man, it's not good when you have the feeling that your heart is, you put in a situation like that, they want you to do something whether you want to or not. I believe it's everybody's personal choice of how they want to be, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm glad that I overcame that. It was a bad feeling, man. It was. You could tell it's not good, when they're trying to make you do something you don't want to do, and if you don't defend yourself, you're gonna get your ass kicked. You're gonna get serious. You got to do what you got to do.
Sure, absolutely. Hey, how would you feel about coming on for the second episode, man? I assume you have a lot more you could talk about.
Oh yes, I have plenty of more to talk about. I mean, I have what if y'all want to ask me questions about something, the second, but that's fine too.
Yeah, we're just running a little late due to the we didn't know we were in cancel. But you guys have any questions you want to ask him before we head out for the night? But was Sunday the 29th work for you?
That's fine, brother. Well,
okay.
Whatever.
I'll pencil you in for that. But Shawn,
yeah, I think we all have relatable stories. I mean, I've had to deal with spiritual warfare.
Yep.
On some pretty deep levels. I know you have. I haven't talked to you about it, Travis, but I assume to you talk. I assume you have
you
too.
Probably tell I was.
I think we all have relatable.
Talking about.
We have relatable stories. I'd like to hear more about what you've gone through. I'd like Jeremiah to tell his story. I've got a story I'd like to tell. I'm sure Travis has something he'd like to say. We could make a whole nother show out of this.
Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I'll write you down for Sunday the 29th, Abe, if that's cool.
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on, man. This is fantastic awesome stuff here.
Yeah, you've rattled some nerves of mine, to be honest with you.
Oh yeah,
sure.
Without a doubt. I mean that, and I know from experience, as do my two partners here, man. It's sometimes not the easiest stuff to talk about,
No, but I think it needs to be said. Other people
I
need to
do
know
too.
this stuff is out there and that it's real.
It is.
For
It is
sure.
real. And people need to understand that it is real.
Absolutely.
You know, so
One of the keys is maintain love in your heart, man. That's one thing I always do. I could be in a situation where somebody might be saying something bad to me. I just maintain love in my heart and I change the subject to something else. I use
Right.
my love and use love to overcome. Because that's how it appears. It's not really the individuals that are coming up against you. It's just that's how it works. Tries to find an opening.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
the hardest thing you can do. Is maintain that love. It's easy when you practice it at a daily basis. If you don't practice it at a daily basis, then it can affect you. I always tell my
Yeah.
friends I always maintain a love foundation.
Yeah. Well, that was some definitely good. That's some great stuff, man. I can't thank you enough for coming on.
Absolutely.
That was fantastic. Just absolutely
Yeah.
fantastic. Now we may
Honestly, can't wait for part 2.
me neither, man. Me neither. We may the guy I've got actually penciled in for the 22nd. He's kind of iffy on it right now. So if he backs out on 22nd, I mean, I'll let you know. Maybe if you're free, we can bring you on then and plan on a longer show. I would have liked to done longer tonight, but unfortunately, I think that was a good start.
Yes, thank you all very much for having me, and it was nice meeting you all.
Yeah, it was just a
Yeah,
pleasure.
you too, man.
I'm always here for anybody, man. Whoever needs going through something they might not understand, I'm always here. You can contact me through Messenger. Abe Sias, I'll get to y'all. You know how to get to me, Jeremiah.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm gonna send you some
Cool.
pictures on you to check out.
All right,
Dude,
that's fine.
give me your opinions on them. Kind of some stuff you just talked about.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah, thank you so much, man. We can't thank you enough.
Well, that's no problem, brother. I'm always here for y'all, man.
Appreciate
All
that.
right.
Bye. Thank
Would you
you
say
all for.
John, did you say something?
Nope.
Okay. I'm sorry, Abe. What were you saying?
No, I said thank you all for having me on, and it was
Absolutely.
nice. Y'all.
Absolutely. So thank you very much. Travis, anything else you want to add, bud?
No, not for tonight. We'll save it for the second episode.
Absolutely. That was phenomenal. So yeah, thanks once again, Abe. And like I said, 29th, we'll see you again, man. And as far as everyone out there, you can reach me at onthetrail.jf@gmail.com. Travis, go ahead with your info if you want.
onthetrail.tv at gmail.com, and also on Facebook, Travis Bowen, Dry Fork.
And Shawn?
On the trail.sw at gmail.com. Facebook for now. Parlor soon.
Yeah, exactly. Abe, by some chance, say someone's in distress out there, man, and needs advice from you because of your experience, are you willing to answer questions from people?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a way people can get in touch with you, or would you rather be connected through someone else?
They can contact me through Messenger, or I got my site, Spiritual Encrypted Encounters.
Yep.
My initial account, which is Positive Spiritualist. That's the one I created when I was going through everything I was going through that I couldn't explain, and I have so many pictures in there. Whoever wants to see what I was going through, I use that site as a how should I say, to keep track of what was happening to me.
Yeah.
When I would hear something, I'll just snap a picture. When I hear a growl or something near me, I would snap a picture, and I have so many pictures in there.
Awesome.
I'm gonna check that out.
Definitely.
Positive spiritualist was my first side, and I created spiritual encrypted encounters to try to help my brothers. I have friends that do that. They go out there hunting, so they can know that they have to be ready for not just an encounter with a cryptid, but an encounter with something spiritual.
That's why we do this, man. That's why we do this. We do it. We do it to educate, to help people out. And we, the three of us, believe that there's more going on with the whole cryptid thing than people think.
Yes.
There is. I think it's all interconnected.
Yes.
I do. You know. So that's all I'll say about that for the night. But before I get in trouble. But anyway, thanks a lot, Abe. Appreciate it once again, man. And we will see you on the 29th, man. And we'll make a night of it, bud.
Okay.
And everyone, this has been episode 3, season 2 of On the Trail in Search of Golden Legends with guest Mr. Abe Sias. It's been a great episode. He'll be back on 29th for episode 2. All our logos are courtesy of Stephen Baxter. Just wanted to throw that out there. But everyone have a good evening. Everyone be good to each other. And, you know, let's try to make the best of everything going on. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, guys.
All right, everybody.
Very good.